Did you ever find yourself thinking, I could use an extra reminder of just how much contempt the ruling class holds for people like me? Did you ever find yourself needing an object lesson in the extent to which the former dividing lines between government, entertainment, academia, and the press have all melted away, leaving us with just this amorphous blob of mostly unearned celebrity? Did you ever find yourself needing a great example of an event or institution that used to operate with the veneer of unbiased independence, but now has just dropped the mask and it's another boring old Democrat Party campaign rally? Well, dear viewer, if you answered in the affirmative to one or more of those questions, the White House Correspondents' Dinner could be for you. Ask your doctor today. Now, you remember the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If you're as old as I am, you remember an event that used to be hosted by the likes of Bob Hope or Danny Thomas or Rich Little or Dick Cavett? And you remember how the point of the event used to be for the press corps and the White House staff to set aside their adversarial animus for one evening per year and engage in a good natured roasting of everybody present. And the highlight of the thing always used to be when the president would get up there and crack a few jokes at his own expense for 5, 6, 7 minutes. Now, everybody, all presidents used to do it. Reagan joked about falling asleep during his audience with the Pope. The first George Bush talked about not knowing what a grocery store scanner was. The second George Bush joked about his penchant for inventing made-up words off the top of his head. Bill Clinton joked about banging fat interns. Wait, that one might not be right. But the whole point of the exercise was for the president to make fun of himself for whatever the most embarrassing thing was that he did during the previous year. But Barack Obama, as you know, is not a big fan of self-deprecation. His first couple of correspondence dinners were awkward, dull, rather bleak affairs, and then when it was time for the 2011 edition, Obama came to the same conclusion that Democrats always come to. Hey, I should take this fun, harmless event and use it for the politics of personal destruction. So that was the year he invited Donald Trump to the party for the sole purpose of setting him up and humiliating him in public. A lot of commentators on the right have been saying today that the shine came off of the correspondence dinner when Trump was in office and he declined to participate. But come on, man. How about let's stop giving Obama a free pass for things that were done on his watch? Today, the correspondence dinner plays rather like Paul Wellstone's funeral, which is to say, an occasion that's not supposed to be political. Everybody knows it's not supposed to be political, but nobody can help themselves, and it turns into a Democrat Party campaign rally. Joe Biden last night made exactly one joke at his own expense, and it was a joke about how he never takes questions from reporters. And all the reporters who should have been offended, well, they laughed uproariously and clapped like the trained SEAL stooges for the regime that they so enjoy being. And you know why they enjoy it? Because as long as they remain loyal and dutiful night nurses who empty Grandpa's bedpan right on schedule, that means they keep getting to attend events like these. And attending events like these means you are a card-carrying member of the ruling elite. Biden, he went on to do a lame Elon Musk joke, then he did a lame Tucker Carlson joke, and the rest of it might as well have been copy-pasted from that god-awful Independence Hall speech. He just starts screaming about how awful the extreme MAGA Republicans are because they don't want to trans the kids. It's a very classy look, Mr. President. It makes... Ladies and gentlemen, it makes your president angry when you don't cut off your kid's wedding tackle and put a dress on him and pump him full of estrogen. And it makes him angry when you try to keep gay porn out of the school library. You damn book-burning Nazi. Personally, I remember with great fondness back in elementary school when we read some of the most immortal works of children's literature, like Johnny and His Assless Chaps, Cindy Has Two Ball Gags, and of course, the immortal Pat the Non-Binary Genderqueer Dolphin. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, happy hour 4 to 7 p.m. on weekdays. Don't miss the $2 mutton legs and bottomless horns of ale. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I'm your eponymous host and humble servant. And it's a little bit early in the program for our second Clinton reference, but then I don't make the news, folks. I just report it. And Chelsea Clinton, who normally spends her time proudly upholding the tradition that says presidential children should have no useful skills whatsoever. She has added her voice to the chorus of outrage over continued attempts by evil, dastardly Republicans to keep wholesome, healthy gay pornography out of your local elementary school. In fact, Ms. Clinton has been so bothered by this outrageous injustice that she did what all concerned citizens do when it's time to make the world a better place in which to live. She went on Twitter and whined about it. Quote, over 50% of attempted book bans last year involved books with LGBTQ plus characters and themes. Books are a vital way that children, adolescents, and adults learn about themselves and our world. Bans such as these are nothing but harmful. Close quote. And my God, there are only 3 sentences here, but I feel like Michelangelo must have felt when looking at the giant marble monolith that would one day be the Pietà. There is just so much to unpack here. But first things first, only a profoundly stupid person would think things like this, much less say them out loud, in public. To express a zero intolerance position on the contents of public school libraries, to intimate that communities should have no say whatsoever in matters such as these, is to assert that absolutely no type of contents should be off limits for small children. Well, wait, that's not exactly true, is it? There's one book that we know is banned outright and will remain banned outright, that inclusive, tolerant, supposedly free-thinking liberals like Chelsea Clinton would never, ever allow in a public school library. And it just happens to be the most important literary work of all time, the book that every speaker of the English language quotes from every day, whether they realize it or not. That book, of course, is the King James Bible, or the authorized version for our Commonwealth viewers. And in all of the current controversy over whether or not there is to be gay porn in your kid's school, I am rather astounded that I haven't heard any Christian or any conservative confront the hooray for gay porn crowd with the intellectual incongruity of their stated position. I don't think I have ever once heard the question asked, what is the rational argument for allowing kids to read Molly and her 3 butt plugs, but not the Bible? Is there a good answer to that question from the leftist perspective? Because I sure as hell can't think of one. In fact, I'm not aware of any state law in any state that explicitly bars the Bible from being stocked in school libraries, but it isn't stocked in school libraries. It is probably the most wide-reaching school book ban in American history, and it doesn't even have any legal basis. It simply was decided somewhere along the line that having the Bible in school libraries somehow violates the separation of church and state, which is nonsense. Putting the Bible in a school library is not in and of itself a value judgment on the existence of the Christian God or the correctness of the Christian religion. Anybody who would make an assertion to the contrary, frankly, has no business calling somebody else a book burner. Our friends on the left, when they agitate for these gay porn books to be in schools, they always flatly assure us that it has nothing to do with grooming children or promoting non-normative modes of human sexuality. But they would say the exact opposite thing about the Bible. They would say, no, you can't do that. You're trying to groom these kids into Christianity. They would be outraged. They'd probably go form a pitchfork mob and everything. If putting the King James Bible on the shelf in a school library sends any sort of message, it's a message that says this book is the most important work of English language prose there ever has been or is likely to ever be. It's a message that says, if you want to understand the history and development of your own native language, this is the book you have to start with. The argument for the Bible being on the shelf in every public school library is the same as the argument for the works of Shakespeare being on those same shelves. Because without those few seminal works that all emerged in the same 50-year period, the English language we speak today would be totally unrecognizable. So again, why aren't these people ever confronted with these verifiably true facts about the world? Why is our side always reacting to their side and refuting their allegations and playing the game on a field of their choosing? I mean, seriously, if somebody calls you a book burner because you are not a fan of gay porn for the kiddies, The onus is not on you to give serious and detailed rebuttal to that accusation, especially not when you can completely destroy their position just by saying, the Bible? No, go ahead, state your case for why Billy's first bisexual orgy should be in the school library and the freaking Bible shouldn't. I will wait right here. Let me know what you come up with. Meanwhile, back to Chelsea Clinton. I don't think we've even finished unpacking her first sentence. I told you this was going to be a big undertaking, didn't I? But I want to touch on the bit where she says 50% of such and such books have LGBTQ plus themes. So let's talk about this. The people Chelsea Clinton is throwing in with, as I mentioned earlier, they swear up and down that none of this has anything to do with grooming or recruitment or indoctrination or a desire to desensitize children to sexual perversion or a desire to get their jollies by talking to little kids about the freaky sex fetishes they enjoy so much. It is all about promoting tolerance and inclusivity, guys. You like tolerance and inclusivity, right? You're not some kind of bigot, are you? But here's my question. And it has specifically to do with the phrase LGBTQ plus themes. How can such themes exist without there being some explicit discussion of sex acts? You got 5 letters and a plus sign there, and you're going to acquaint the little kids with the L and the G and the B and the T and the Q and the plus sign without talking about any freaky, weird sex acts? You'll have to explain that one to me right after you answer the previous question about the Bible again. I will wait right here. Okay, and I think we're finally ready to deal with the second sentence. Quote, books are a vital way that children, adolescents, and adults learn about themselves and our world, close quote. And sure, there's nothing prima facie objectionable about this sentence in isolation, but in context, it says a lot about the mindset of people on the modern American left. This sentence assumes, for example, that school is the only place your kid is ever going to see a book. That the idea of a mother or a father handing a child a book to read is so inconceivable as to be a non-starter, because the government is the font of all wisdom. The government is the font of all understanding. The government is the font of all knowledge. Your child's education will consist in its entirety, 100%, of what he or she learns in a government school. In fact, let's just dispel with this quaint, outdated notion that the job of teaching kids about the world rests primarily with parents. We will have no more of that talk. It's just not helpful. You need to get it through your thick skulls, Mr. and Mrs. Flyover Country, that your kids are the property of the United States government in body, mind, and spirit. You, Mom and Dad, are permitted temporary custody on evenings and weekends, but we own them. And their view of the world will be the view that we decide on, not you. If we decide your daughter is really your son or your son is really your daughter, well, we don't really need any input from you on the matter. We are the professionals here, after all, and we will shepherd this child on his journey of gender self-discovery. And if we decide the world's going to be a better and more enlightened place if every 8-year-old learns to perform fellatio on an adult man, it's just not your place to butt in with your archaic, old-timey values. And that's just one more way in which the position of these maniacs crumbles to dust when you subject it to the slightest rational scrutiny. Because here's a big news flash. If parents want their kids to read gay porn novels on their own time, if parents think gay porn novels are an indispensable part of their child's formative experience, nobody is stopping them from buying their kid every goddamn gay porn novel in the history of gay porn. In point of fact, nobody anywhere has tried to ban any book. Saying a book doesn't belong in a school library is not the same thing as trying to ban it. There are lots of books that shouldn't be in school libraries. It's the job of responsible adults, parents, teachers, and administrators to determine which books those are. And the identity of those books will be different from place to place, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because different communities have different values and they should govern themselves accordingly. So how about let's dispense with this idea that our friends on the left, well, they're just agitating for intellectual freedom, and they want your kids to expand their minds as much as possible. That is the opposite of the truth. And this is not liberalism we're dealing with either. This is brute force social engineering. The worldview that is being promoted is an extremely narrow one, and it is profoundly anti-intellectual, and it is amoral as the day is long. It's a worldview that says you are a better person if you engage in non-normative sexual behaviors. It's a worldview that says your worth and your potential are totally contingent on what you do with your sex organs and whom you do it with. And we wonder why we have a generation of such desperately unhappy adolescents and young adults that they're now killing themselves at a historically unprecedented rate. We decided to just dispense with all traditional social mores and gender roles, and we didn't spare a thought to what would happen to a young person who actually had to grow up in the world we decided to create. Well, we're sure getting an answer to that question now, and it ain't good. So yes, Chelsea Clinton, books are a vital way that children, adolescents, and adults learn about themselves and our world. And when the books children and adolescents read send them the message that the world only cares about them if they do the correct, fashionable things with their genitals, well, that's a hell of a good recipe for societal collapse and a youth suicide epidemic. Final sentence. Quote, bans such as these are nothing but harmful. End quote. So in case she didn't put a fine enough point on it before, Chelsea Clinton wants there to be no misunderstanding here. If you try to keep gay pornography out of your kids' school, you are harming them. Because banning gay porn in school causes nothing but harm. She just said it right out loud in plain English. And as if to emphasize the horrific nature of the point she's making, she attaches to this tweet a picture of a person reading the book Genderqueer, which is, there's no two ways of saying it. It's a gay pornography book written for little kids, and it's number one on the reading list for every purple-haired, neck-tattooed, maniac, sex pervert schoolteacher from sea to shining sea, which I think is about 85% of them at this point. So in the final analysis, does Chelsea Clinton have any idea what a gigantic fool she's made of herself by tweeting out this exhortation for more gay porn in the public school library? No, of course she doesn't. If these people ever took the time to think through the things they say they believe, they wouldn't say them out loud because they would realize how stupid they are. But this isn't about that. Self-awareness is no component of this story. This is simply the American 21st century version of a communist struggle session in Maoist-era China. Something happened, I don't know what, but something happened that spooked Chelsea Clinton to where she felt like she needed to engage in an ostentatious public display of, I'm one of the good people, I believe so very fervently in the cause and the message, I would never dream of engaging in any counter-revolutionary activity, either in thought or in word or in deed. Please, please, for the love of God, don't bundle me off to the prison camp. And for that matter, you folks better not linger around this channel too long. Somebody might report you to the local woke party commissar for all we know. Thanks very much for watching. Have a pleasant tomorrow. See you next time. Do not comply. Get off my lawn.